Okay, good morning. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm here with my good friends Karen and Chris and Sandy. And I believe Jason's going to jump on here directly as well. And but today we are talking about how to find your way to peace and pleasure and happiness. And the reason we're talking about this is because we're studying the Tao Te Ching as interpreted by Wayne Dyer in his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And we are on chapter 35, or verse 35 of the Tao Te Ching. So, but before we get started, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. And so guys, go ahead and jump out. Whoever wants to hop out there first. And meet out.
Good morning, it's Catherine in Boulder, Colorado, and beautiful sunny day here. Looking forward to discussing this. This is a great topic for people.
Good morning, Sandy Root here in rainy Miami Beach. Happy to be here, and yeah, great chapter. Looking forward to discussing it.
Good morning, Chris Camp here in Chicago, and it's also raining here, so it's enjoyable, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for jumping out there. So who wants to read the verse this morning and get us going?
Sandy's the reader.
She's the
reader. Sandy's the reader. But Chris read once and it did very well. It's a good reading.
That's right. Chris can read too. Either one is good. My internet's too weird.
Okay, 35th verse. All men will come to him who keeps to the one. They flock to him and receive no harm, for in him they find peace, security, and happiness. Music and dining are passing pleasures, yet they cause people to stop. How bland and insipid are the things of this world when one compares them to the Tao, the Tao. When you look for it, there's nothing to see. When you listen for it, there's nothing to hear. When you use it, it cannot be exhausted.
Thank you, Sandy. And I wanted to just kind of bring up real quick, Chris wrote our blog post for this week. And for those of you who would like to find that blog post, you can find it on mindsetmasterycollective.com. And it'll be the first post on there. That it's always going to be the first post is the one that you can find the most recent, up-to-date blog that we're discussing. And or if you want to know where we are at any given moment, go to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That takes you there as well. But either way, Chris wrote our blog post this week, and he kind of addressed this verse and mentioned meditation. And I thought that was a really interesting way to go about thinking about this, as far as where it was talking about all men will come to him who keeps to the one, and they flock to him and receive no harm, for in him they find peace, security, and happiness. And I think that it's interesting because when you meditate consistently, you have that peacefulness, that happiness that kind of exudes out to everybody. And so I think that that whole idea that people flock to you is it's pretty accurate. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you feel like more people tend to want to be around you if you are meditating consistently? I thought that's kind of an interesting thought.
I guess it depends on the person. Like if somebody's fed by chaotic energy, they have to have that drama and chaos and upset and upheaval, everything constantly going on in their life. And I think that, well, my theory is that they don't have that connection. I mean, everybody has the connection, but they don't have that peaceful connection, that way of of receiving the energy, and so they like feed off of that energy. Because I was intrigued with that very first part of this verse too, because it almost sounded biblical in a way, and see people flocking to the one God. But I think that when people stay focused on God, stay focused on that peace, regardless of the outside circumstances, I think it can be very attractive, especially in like a disaster type situation. Like I've been in some situations where you just have to step in and take control, and see that things are done when people are kind of panicking and don't know what to do. And when they see that somebody has that calmness about them, somebody has that presence to them, it can help calm their fears, and I think they are attracted to that that security and that sense that it feels more stable than all of the chaos stuff.
Am I here?
You're here. Welcome, Jason.
Welcome, Jason.
Morning. And then, I don't know what was going on. Okay. I guess as I was thinking about it, it all depends too, I guess, on the person who is flocking, I guess, to somebody, because where they're at, like if somebody wants to be partying and eating, they'll flock to that cool guy that, throws money around and he takes you out to the nice restaurants or, whatever. I think it depends on the state of the person where they're going to flock. And if someone's truly looking for that peace and security and happiness, they'll flock to that one that is exuding that. So I think we are drawn to what we're looking for, or what we are. So, but in my own life, I know that there's been moments where, I've shared in the past where I was an alcoholic, and so I'd flock to that kind of scene, the people who gave alcohol or whatever it was, or had the good parties, and but as I realized that was not the path I needed to be going down, I was looking for people like this, the ones who, how do they get happy like this? How are they so peaceful? What are they doing? And then in that way, I started to flock to things like you mentioned, Chris, like meditation and yoga and all sorts of things. I've searched all sorts of modalities to find, things like this over the years. So, I guess if you're looking for it, you'll definitely flock, and if you're one of those people, you'll attract the people that are looking for that peace and security and happiness as well.
That's awesome. How y'all doing this morning? I'm the only one that's not muted, so I guess I'll speak. Sorry, I couldn't find the link this morning. So, hey, I totally relate to what you're saying, Sandy. I remember back when I first met you, and we were talking about stuff, and it's I, for one, just from the relationships that I've had over the past couple of years, have really grown, and to see what was holding me back, and what was what's been my own kind of doing, and a lot of it. I was just I was actually, before I came on, I was actually reading through the verse, and I mean, this verse is really can be really helpful, but it's a little bit hard to decipher, I think. Hey, Chris, how you doing today? I was watching a film last night, a film that I remember from my childhood, The Labyrinth, and I got to that scene where where Jared, the wizard of the labyrinth, was trying to distract the main character from achieving what she needed to do, and he was just throwing all these distractions in front of her, and he was using her comfort zone and the things that she knew from her childhood and the things that she felt comfortable in to distract her, because she only had so much time to do what she needed to do. So he would win if she took too much time and was distracted by things. And I saw the similarity in life, and for the first time watching that movie, I made that connection as to, how kind of, I don't know how you want to describe it. You describe it as negative forces or the devil or just life throwing things in front of you that kind of distract you and get you off track of getting where you want to be. And sometimes it might be a substance that it puts in front of you, or it might be disguised as a friend that needs help, and the thing is we have to be protective and have balance. And I think that's kind of the main thing that they're talking about in here, but it goes so much more deeper, and I don't want to continue to rattle on. I want to hear more about what you guys have to think about it. But, so I'll hand the mic over to somebody else for the moment.
That was real good. Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Hey.
Yeah, right on. Excellent. Yeah, I like both of what you just said, Catherine and Sandy. That was really good. And I was kind of thinking of it like what you were saying, Catherine, where you're saying people get in a chaotic state, or people get in a, because like, I don't know, at the beginning he talks about this one being leading into the two, and the two creating the 10,000 things. So it's like, talking about everything kind of. And I just saw it as sort of a thing, like when I was thinking of meditation, I guess I was also thinking of just someone who's sort of calm, or a calmness, that's the thing that kind of holds things together, or it's kind of an attraction principle where, people look for the calmness in the storm kind of thing, when a lot of things are going on. Let's stop.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what Catherine was saying of, when there's a whole bunch of chaos going on or disaster happens or whatever, it's that one person who kind of has that calmness and that strength or confidence to take that situation on, that everybody just kind of falls in line with them. That's kind of one way to looking at it, right? And we see that in all kinds of different shows or whatever, is that there's always that one person who seems to not crack in the face of insanity, and everybody looks to that person for guidance on, what do I do, right? But that was interesting. Real quick before we go on, I wanted to just address, Jason said he had a hard time finding the link to jump on here. So for those of you who are watching, obviously this is going to be a recording for you, but if you'd like to join our conversation in the future, you can always find our join link at zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. Again, that's zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. That gives you all the instructions for jumping on here via video or phone call or iPhone or whatever. I guess there's apps you can use on your phones to join this conversation. So again, that's zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. That's where all the instructions are. And of course, we meet every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on Saturdays. So, okay.
Yeah, and Catherine, Samantha puts the link on the commentary for the verse of the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Top there.
Cool. Morning, Karen. Welcome.
Good morning.
There you are.
If I could only speak through my temple, it would work. Sorry, we've got little poopies around again. You know why I call them poopies instead of puppies? Yes, you
Yeah.
do. Okay, so I'm glad to be here. Really glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. It takes me back to those days when we had the foster puppies, and what a mess. They're cute as a button, but they are messy, that's for sure. Let's see. Oh, okay. So what was it I was going to say? Oh, I liked how you were talking, Chris, about you said the one leading in the two, and then the two creating the 10,000 things. And one of the things that Wayne was kind of talking about in this chapter was how, when we're focused on the surface pleasures, we're focused on like one single thing, that one, physical thing that say, okay, for me, coffee, right? It's this coffee thing. So this gives me a lot of pleasure and that sort of thing. I enjoy it. But yet he's saying, when you connect to the Tao, or the one thing that creates all of everything that there is, that you actually can connect with a deeper level of pleasure and peace and happiness than if you are just focused on that surface pleasure, right? Because the one thing is the thing that creates everything else, right? And that's where all of pleasure and happiness and peace comes from ultimately, rather than just these surface things that are fleeting. So what do you guys think about that side of it? Of course, this chapter talks a lot about, of course, the chapter title is Living Beyond the Worldly Pleasures. And of course, in a lot of ways, I feel like, okay, we're humans and we're supposed to take part in these human pleasures, right? But, what do you think it's trying to tell us? Should we not be thinking about those things, or should we strictly be focused on the underneath part of it? Chris, jump out? Yeah, jump out, Chris.
Oh yeah. Sorry, James. All right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That it just makes perfect sense what you said. The thing I kind of mentioned here in my commentary was that this was like written in a quite a long time ago, and it was like more of a quiet time, and so less of those activities to sort of get your attention were there, so I think now you're kind of fighting or wrestling or dealing with a lot more stuff in today's world. That's the only thing that kind of crossed my mind.
Thanks for that, Chris. The other day, as an example of what you just said, actually yesterday, I'm coming home from work and I'm getting texts from Google. They want my information. They want to be able to use my information so they can put better, ads and better, more relevant content in front of me while I'm using the internet. And I'm thinking, why do I want to do that? So you can be better at distracting me from the things I want to do. It's like, if I wanted to go search for these things, I can go search for them. I don't need you to put them in front of me everywhere I go and distract me and, make me less efficient and frustrate me. And then by the end of the day, I'm going, why didn't I get anything done? So I keep telling them, I keep clicking no. And then they send me another one. Hey, you need to do this. No, I don't want to. And that's what everybody's dealing with nowadays. Back when when the Tao was written, as you mentioned, I mean, it was much more simple time, and I'm sure you could have equated, music and drinking or eating food as probably the biggest distractions out there at the time. But now we're just inundated with things, and it seems like you really have to claw and fight your way to even focus on what it is you want. First you have to decide what it is you want, and decide that you you know, can do it and have them believe in it and, you know, picture it, vision it, you know, but then you got to take action and get there. And I mean, there's so many distractions out there. I mean, it's, you know, we're in this together, everybody. We're in this together. It's not, it's not that easy for everybody. You know, we're all in it.
I think, I mean, yeah, there's all these distractions, but I think that we can live the Tao, or, you know, do these, you know, as he's speaking in this chapter, like being connected to the one and all of that, wow, and enjoy all the things in our world, like the meals and seeing our favorite music or whatever it is. But I know that that's not easy, and it's easy to get, you know, once you're like something, or it can be easy to let that take over and forget to come back to center. Or I think as long as, I think, well, for me at least, having a daily practice, whether it's yoga, kundalini, meditation, whatever it is, to help me remember that everything's within, and what I seek is here, then I can enjoy the worldly pleasures. Because I do think as humans, we're on earth, let's enjoy what we have here. But there's definitely a balance and definitely lots of distractions. But I find that daily practice for myself is super important to keep me on track and not get back into those addictive modes, because I tend to have that kind of personality where I can get, you know, latched onto things very easily. So I find that the daily practice is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that daily practice is super important, and after you've done daily practice for a while, it just gets to be, that's just the way you live. It's like you're in a constant state of meditation, and or at least can be there within a second, you know, if you need to be. And it's I think as humans we are, you know, this is that's an interesting question, Samantha, because throughout the centuries there's, you know, and today we have people that seem to be very polarized, you know, like there's people that, like the author of this, who wants everybody just in that zone like all the time, and expects people to, you know, not get attached to these human things, and to be, and there's a lot of spiritual leaders that want everybody to strive to be, you know, the highest enlightened person they can be, or whatever. And I get that, I totally get that, but we're here, like we already know all that stuff. We already know unconditional love. We already know how to be in bliss 24/7. You know, we came here to experience all the other stuff. And yeah, you have to, I think the point is, you can't base your happiness, base your bliss, base your sense of peace on having those humanly things. You know, if you can just keep that constant inner peace, and then you can enjoy those humanly things, but you're not attached to them. You're not, you know, if you're not going to kill yourself if you can't get your latte tomorrow at 10 o'clock, you know. But although some people might, you know, some people are that attached to their coffee. But I know we kind of joke in here about coffee to keep us going. Like Sandy's like, yeah. I had actually given up coffee for a year because, see, I have this thing about being too attached to certain things. Like I don't like to allow myself to be depending on things. And so when I realized I was dependent on coffee, I just cut it out of my life for like a year. I didn't drink it. And now, because I'm working internationally and speaking to people at very odd hours, I'm back on the coffee, and I probably have twice the habit I had before, but that's all right. Yeah, I think we have to, I don't think we came here reincarnated this time just to sit in the cave and meditate the whole time. You know, I think we're here to interact with people and like I said, learn not to base everything on getting, you know, whatever it is. It could be, I mean, so many things that people can get attached to. Some really strange stuff. You know, this is a free will planet, you guys. So we have to remember that. We can't, we're not in control, and we can't control what other people do, for sure. I mean, it'd be great if everybody could walk around blissed out, but it'd probably be boring as hell, don't you think?
I like how, what the heck was I just going to say? Sorry, I've got a thunderstorm happening here, and it's distracting me. I'll come back to it. Somebody else jump out. Sorry.
I'll jump out real quick, if I can try to make it real quick. When I grew up, I was really fascinated by nature and the way things worked, and the way, you know, how nature grew, and then the cycle and the systems of you know, farming, and then how the food got to us, and you know, just how everything worked and came together. And then that was just something that I was just so like fascinated with, and so, you know, anatomy, physiology, that sort of stuff was something that I ended up studying. And so I had this great appreciation for the way things worked and come together. And so even, you know, as a young child, I was noticing things like that. And you know, so when I, you know, got new clothes, or I got a good meal, and I was always very appreciative, and always would, you know, would think about the, you know, what went into making this shirt or these pants, or, you know, this is so great, you know. So I came from the other side of the perspective, into, you know, from the beginning I kind of felt like that. So I guess in the beginning I sort of came from a perspective of kind of being in line with the Tao. But as I grew older, I got out of being in alignment with it, and started, you know, wanting wanted worldly possessions more. Not really possessions, but you know, I was never wanting, you know, I was never actually in need. I never felt like I needed to get these other things, but there were certain things that I really wanted. Like I wanted a good relationship, you know, I wanted a family, you know, family meant a lot to me. Well, as I grew older, I realized that even that wasn't sound. It wasn't sound. You know, everybody, my friends, families were getting divorces, you know, people were breaking up. And, you know, when that happened to me, you know, that was something that I was like, well, if this isn't bringing me happiness, what will? And I sort of just gave up. I sort of said, you know, screw it. I sort of said, you know, I don't care anymore. And so I went on this path of just like sort of, you know, pushing myself in the right direction, but I was kind of meandering through things, you know. Took me a long time to get through college. I changed major, you know, but at the same time, I really got as much enjoyment and fulfillment out of it as possible. Because it was like, you know, I just, you know, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what exactly everything is supposed to be, you know, but I was open to the possibilities, and I just had hope, you know. It was just like a hope and a prayer, you know. And you know, I would my thing back then was, well, you know, besides the, you know, partying and having fun with my friends, I'd like to play sports, and big thing was volleyball and out on the beach. So I was like, well, hey, you know, if nothing else, I'm enjoying my my days out on the beach, you know, getting sun, you know, focusing on something, and it would get my mind off of the things that weren't you know, that I wasn't happy with. But now, you know, like last night, seeing the movie Labyrinth and making that connection again, I was like, you know what, even that was a distraction. Even that, and because I would do that, I would basically go and exert myself, athletically just about every day. So, and that, even that was a distraction, keeping me from a better path, And so sometimes even the good things in our life, when we're doing them too much, can keep us from our true, or maybe a better path. I don't want to say true, but a better path, or keep us from getting the happiness that we can get through, like, the understanding of the Tao and through meditation, and having that within ourselves, understanding that comes from within us, rather than going out and trying to search for it. But sometimes those distractions can keep us from even going down that path of understanding to see that. And so that's why I wanted to bring up is, some of us are coming from a different point, and then we get thrown off track, and we have to kind of come back, and then we still have to try to make sense of it. But it does take work, and I'm so grateful for this mastermind and all of you that's helped me to open my eyes and refocus and kind of get back on track. So I just want to say thanks. Thanks a lot.
I totally hear you, Jason. There's like this roller coaster ride, when I was first, it took me, when I realized I needed to stop drinking back in the day, whenever that was, it took a few years for me to actually get it done, because, I'd be fine and find, ways to deal and not go to the alcohol. But then there would be times where, yeah, it's okay. I'm fine now. I can handle it. I'll have one. And then you get completely back on track like that. Like, not even like sideswipe. Like, how did I get here again? And it just went back and forth for a while. And even after a couple of years, I would try it again. And same thing, like, what are you doing? And it was beyond frustrating. And I think it gets to a point sometimes where we have to go through this. And then I got so angry at myself, so frustrated with myself, that I never, ever, ever again, I can't go on this roller coaster ride, because that was damaging in itself, like that, oh, I can do this again, and then falling back down and having to climb back out again. So I totally get what you're saying on that front, and have experienced that a lot. Even with little things in my life today, I go through moments where there's always like this little bumpy ride. Like, you fall back, you get back on, you fall back. And, there were times where, probably over the past year, where I stopped doing my daily practice. I stopped meditating. I stopped, doing the things that I knew were good for me and helped me stay on track. And so, weird thoughts would come in, and just, I could feel the difference just in not having that practice. And so I find throughout my life that it's just super important for me to be dedicated to, what I know is good for me and right for me, and it'll help me stay there. Even if the roller coasters come, I have to go through, forgive myself, and let them go, but keep the practice going. And I know I'll go up over time in the long run. So up to wherever I'm going, wherever I want to be. So.
Love to hear your thoughts, Karen.
Oh, but I just want to say I'm not going to give up my coffee addiction. Sorry, keeping that one.
Me too. I'm right there with you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I can't see anybody now. I'm playing around trying to catch up here, because I usually have everything read and the verse redone and all that kind of stuff. And now I haven't been able to get on my Chrome for lack of knowing my I live on LastPass, and I don't know if you've seen LastPass ads, but they say, like, the average person has 6 passwords. Well, I think I have 180 passwords on my LastPass. Oh, I'm just a mess. That's the major distraction that I have. I have is me trying to figure out how to gluttonize, how to hoard, how to do stuff like that, which is, terrible things to have to admit to. But I was thinking about what I was learning from talking to one of our puppies. It seems like we've had some parvo, and I guess I'm just not really sure of all the things that I need to be sure of. But I asked my son, so once they get it, there's nothing you can do, and he was telling me, you can get antibiotics, but we don't have hundreds of millions of dollars for all of the antibiotics that we'd probably need. So I was holding this little puppy, and I was thinking, well, what can we do if we don't have an antibiotic for it, and that's what it has? And I was talking to it. This is driving me crazy to not be able to see you. How do I get back to that? I've got too many things open here. Anyway, so if you're all grimacing and I'm missing that, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Thanks. So I was telling this puppy, I've been trying to understand a little bit better this, that we're all whole and perfect. I've never quite been able to take that in totally, and I'm trying to understand that a little bit better. So I was telling this puppy, you're really whole and you're really perfect and everything's really fine, even though it's skin and bones, eats everything it can and still skin and bones. But so I was talking to it about focusing on this wholeness, and I was thinking, sometimes I have too many thoughts coming in at once. Sorry. They say you can only think one thought at a time. I've never believed that either. But anyway, I was trying to figure out why we have to deal with things. You were saying that we live in a faster, busier, more expanded time, and we have more pleasures to deal with, more distractions to deal with. And I was thinking how often I think those kinds of things about the peoples who have gone before us, and then and then I read something just astounding, from Aristotle or Plato or some, just anybody that that would know, and I'm just convinced that they had probably as many distractions as we could think that we have. I mean, just the fact that their transportation could poop, could die, could get sick, needed food. It's a whole different thing than going to the gas station and putting gas in your car, or plugging it in, or doing whatever you need to do. I think that is part of the physical condition, that we have all these distractions. And the idea of contrast is to make us choose, to make us aware of what we want, who we are. I agree with you, Jason. It just disgusts me no end that I'm filling out these things for Google so that they know how they can leap me off the the track for the day. I'm lost. I apologize. You probably are too. I'm sorry. I'm not more together. I'll try and I'll try and catch on faster here.
No, that's fine, Karen. Actually, some of what you said reminded me of part of what I wanted to talk about before is, because Chris mentioned in his blog post, we were talking about Lao Tzu and how he's talking about, dining and distractions. There are these insipid pleasures, right? And Chris was like, well, that was like thousands of years ago, right? And he's sitting there thinking that these are such big distractions. And yet, and then you're mentioning reading something from somebody back then and making that correlation between, okay, we have a lot of distractions and we think we're so distracted, but yet, at the same time, Lao Tzu thought people were like super distracted back then. So it is interesting how you kind of look at those different perspectives and you realize, in that time, that was like the most advanced time up until at that point, right? Every society or every time thinks it's the most advanced and has the most possible distractions and all of those kinds of things. So, that makes perfect sense that it is interesting looking back at some of these philosophers and going, dang, I can't believe how insightful they were for that being 4,000 years ago or however many years ago. How is it that what they have to say can make so much sense to us even now and as technologically and advanced as we think we are? It's fascinating.
Hey, Karen, thanks for what you said there. Something you said about contrast made me start thinking about what he was saying in the book, but what Dr. Wayne Dyer was saying in the book. It's about understanding, a new understanding about pleasure, and we can understand it more by understanding or looking at the contrast between the pleasure of having the superficial pleasures and the transcendent pleasure of the Tao. And he says in there that it's something about we can never, get what we want, but there's a never-ending supply of what we don't want. And that was a little confusing for me, so I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts about that. See if I can find where that was.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jason, I had a moment there where I said something to my husband, and I think I missed half of what he said. I apologize for that. So, yeah, you could kind of reiterate what you're talking about.
Well, he says it's kind of hard to find it. I actually found this verse a little bit hard to understand, and even in his writings a little bit. I had to read it a couple times. And you sort of have to read the whole thing in its entirety for it to make sense, You get halfway in, and then you're really confused. I think it's down here. Says most everything defined as pleasure is temporary. So if you need more and more of it, then it has a grip on you. What you desire so strongly has become your jailer, trapping you into believing that worldly pleasure, into believing that it will bring you peace, security, and happiness, but it never does. Worldly pleasures only seduce you into becoming dependent of them, and they leave you always wanting more. It's a craving that can never be satisfied. You need another great meal in order to have that pleasure again, because it's vanished almost immediately upon the completion of your dessert. You need to keep the music playing because when it stops, your enjoyment stops too. All addictions scream out this depressing message: you'll never ever get enough of what you don't want. Contrast this bleak picture of pleasure, which Lao Tzu calls bland and insipid, with the ecstasy of the Tao. just for a moment, imagine having perspective of the Tao as you read this verse, and see if you can change the way you look at this idea of pleasure. Then, the benefits of having a concept that harmonizes with the Tao are outlined in the opening lines. All people will flock to you as they find peace and security and happiness when they do. The reason and that goes on, that's further, but the contrast part was what I was thinking of when you mentioned it, that, by understanding that everything, that the things that we don't want are in abundance too, I think we can sort of remember to put our energies towards guarding ourselves from it is almost like half the battle in being able to focus on, the positive things of the Tao, I guess. And then in knowing that contrast, we can appreciate it more. I don't know. I'm a little confused, but what are your thoughts?
I'm not entirely sure what you're asking, to be honest with you, Jason, but are you talking about I don't know, I feel like when in that section that you were reading, he's trying to help us to understand how, when we connect to the Tao, is that we're connecting to the source of all creation. And that when we connect with that source of all creation, we start to see the magic of everything that is, all of the surface things. It's like, when you look at a tree, it's not just a tree anymore. All of a sudden it's life, it's energy, you can see deeper, you can feel kind of a connection with it as a living thing. And so then all of a sudden there's more to it there. I don't know if that makes sense, or even if I'm answering the right thing that you're asking. I'm not sure. It's like when you look at the clouds and, oh, look, there's a cloud. That's really cool. It's white and fluffy and all that, but then all of a sudden it's like you look at it as all around the world, and then you see the world, and then you see maybe the perspective from outer space and the whole world, and then you kind of like move even further back, and then you're seeing the whole universe, and then you move even further out and you're seeing the galaxy. It's kind of, or you can go the other way. You look, I don't know, it's all, you ever see those things where they zoom way in and they keep, like the videos where it keeps zooming in and in and in and in, and it just, every level, can't even explain. It's like you're on this level, we're right here, and we see this perspective, but then you shift down into a deeper perspective, and there's a whole nother world there, and then you shift down into another deeper perspective, and there's a whole nother world there, and at every level it's the same size perspective, but yet you realize it's so much tinier, or it's so much larger, and it's kind of like connecting with that, all encompassing everything, that you realize the magic of everything, or you realize that, I don't know. Does that help at all? Am I even talking about the same thing you're talking about?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're saying that, I'm realizing that maybe he's also saying that our addictions, no matter what it is, are kind of reinforcing this a mindset of scarcity, and that we're no matter how much you drink, or how much you smoke, or how much drugs you do, or how much partying and dancing, or whatever it is, or playing volleyball, or however it is, whatever it is, that when you come down from that, it's going to be a reminder of that is fleeting, and and it's going to reinforce an inaccurate thought that that there's scarcity rather than abundance. in the world, in which the truth is there's just so much abundance that we just have to fight these addictions and what have you, these, you know, scarcity mindsets in order to see it. So, but I appreciate what you're just saying, because that's having that as different perspectives, or being able to see that. And as you're talking, I was thinking about that, the peeling away of the onion, the levels you're talking about and everything. You know, we definitely have different perspectives. As we can put ourselves in the next level, we're going to see things a little bit differently. So, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know, one thing I was just thinking also on that was that, you know, when we're focused on these specific pleasures or these specific things or these addictions or whatever, is that, like you were talking about with the Labyrinth movie, that's that distraction they're trying to keep, or not they, but it keeps you focused on just this one little tiny aspect of everything. Like all you can think about is your next cup of coffee. You know, that's all that matters, right? You can't think about anything else. There's nothing else possible. There's, you know, that's all there is. And when you're only focused on that one little tiny little thing, then you miss out on so many other possible things that are awesome and amazing, right? You know, and obviously we're not saying to give up coffee. We love our coffee. But, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with enjoying something, but as long as that you're not just like obsessed with that one thing, like that's all there is, there's nothing else, right? You know, because when you become obsessed, then you block out everything else that there is and you can't do anything. So, of course, I don't know. Then there's those people who are so obsessed with something that they completely create something absolutely amazing from it. So, you know, I don't know. There's those possibilities. It can go either way, right? So we just got to remember to allow for everything. All possibilities.
If I may, some of the things that came to mind as each of you were talking, this is going to kind of probably let you know how behind the times I am, but I love fractal geometry. I love the idea of fractal geometry, and it thrilled me to learn that one of the benefits of living in this time, first of all, no one would know about fractal geometry without computers. And I remember starting university, you know, when computers were as large as rooms, in some cases as large as buildings. And I certainly didn't have the concept, the futuristic concept that, you know, I could be sitting in the vicinity of a computer that really hardly took up any space at all. And so when I grasped repeating patterns, I mean, for a long time, my computer wallpaper was all these different fractal patterns that people put together, and it was just really fun. I'm I think continually amazed at how important perspective is to us. I remember someone saying or asking the question on an Abraham Hicks video that I was watching. Abraham, have you ever been physical? You know, which I can understand the desire to ask that question, because it's sometimes like, you know, God, have you ever been physical? Have you ever gone through this? Do you know how I feel? Do you know what I'm thinking? And so the answer was, we've never stopped being physical. And I thought, oh, give me that. Tell me that. Explain that. And they were saying, well, you know, we breathe through your nostrils, we see through your eyes, we hear through your ears. And I thought, you know, I can envision, you know, people that I've lost, doing that. And it's, they would have a different perspective than I would have. That's the help, that they're not stuck on that, that they can only see the idea that I'm trying to work out in my mind from the viewpoint that I have, but they can see it from the zoom, from the further out or the closer in, or just 2 degrees to the left can make a big difference. So I think when Lao Tzu talks about following the one who can stay with the one, it's like being focused, the ability. I don't know about the rest of you, but for me it is such an incredible ability to be focused even for, I don't know, a minute. Yesterday I was thinking, I ate this thing. I remember picking it up, but I don't remember one bite of it. I don't remember enjoying, it had stuff in it, and I don't remember thinking about that. My focus was, I don't know, somewhere else. Okay, that's it.
Looks like we're almost here at the top of the hour. I just want to say that, everything in moderation, guys, because you can get addicted to meditation too. You can get addicted to that state of bliss. As someone who knows how to tap into that, I can tell you that, and knowing, and people here on the panel that can tap into that too, you can get addicted to that, and it can make life a lot harder if you're attached to that sense of bliss, attached to that meditative state too much, because then you see all of the intricacies of life as something that's disturbing your peace. It is like what was that movie? There was a movie, and this guy was supposedly this guy talking to God, and everybody, wanted to talk to him, and he's like trying to meditate, and the doorbell keeps ringing because the postman is delivering stuff, and he gets up and he's like, fuck, I can't meditate, and that's like how we get sometimes. I mean, I've done that sometimes. I'm like trying to be blissed out and something's going on, and I'm just like, I just need to meditate. I mean, how silly is that? It's like so ridiculous. So you have to, maintain that balance, and it takes practice. It just takes practice, and you learn more every day. So this was a great discussion. Thanks everybody for being here, and I hope everybody has a lovely week. Thank you so much.
That's great, Catherine. I think everyone can relate to that. Like you just said. I just want to wish everybody a fantastic weekend. I hope you can find your way to peace, and hope to see you here back next week, because I really enjoy this and I appreciate you all.
Me too. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Jason. That was a great mastermind this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking that earlier too, Catherine, and I was going to hop out, but I forgot that about, can get addicted to the to the things, to the yoga, the meditation, whatever. I think I've had my moments where I'm, it's like I would push myself so hard I have to go to yoga because and that's where it's like an addiction. Like I have to, instead of just letting it flow in, it was like pushing to get it done, and that causes more stress too. So yeah, definitely can get addicted to it all. So the good and the bad. So definitely a balance in keeping aware of yourself in all aspects. Thanks everyone. Great discussion. Have a good weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate everything that everybody's added to our discussion this morning on what was our topic, is how to find your way to peace, happiness, and bliss. Or what was the other one? Peace, happiness, contentment, all of those things. Anyway, have a great, awesome, amazing weekend. And for those of you who are watching this as a recording, just remember you can always find us at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That'll tell you what we're talking about for the current week. And then whenever you want to join us on this live discussion, feel free to jump on. You can get all the instructions for that at zoom.SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. So with that, have a great, awesome, and amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.